Good evening, Maranatha. This is your dear friend, Brother Jonathan Kwaku. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys and to share some information with you guys. And today we'll be looking at who we are as Haitian people. Qui est nous comme Haïtiens? We need to know who we are, and we need to go back in our history. If you really understand, you got to go all the way back, deep in history to Africa, specifically Western and Central Africa. You see, the Europeans were familiar with the coast of Africa from trading. And what happened was they had come to Haiti at the time, which was called Saint-Domingue, to take a lot of the resources. Haiti at the time was inhabited by Taino Indians, Native Americans. And the French took over the lands, and they wanted the resources in the land, and they wanted someone to work the land for free. Lazy. And the native people there died. So kunya blanc yo get un problem. They say, okay, we want the resources, but there's no one to work the land. All the native people died. Where are we gonna go? They went to the coast of Africa and they traded goods for captured slaves. They would trade weapons, guns, and other manufactured goods to get slaves. And they put the slaves on these boats and literally would destroy communities by separating people from their families forever. And what they would do, they would specifically go to the coastal areas of Benin, Togo, Cameroon, Congo, Ivory Coast, Senegal. That's where the majority of the Haitian story begins. And they're traded and they're put on a ship, and this ship and this journey across the ship on this ocean would change their life forever. So that leads us now to the second part of our journey. Again, you're taken from your families in Western and Central Africa, and now you're put on a large ship on the Atlantic Ocean to be brought to what we would call the New World. You make it tout African, you know, go bateau, to go all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. And these slaves were stuffed in this boat for 4 months. To esclave un men yap chita nan bateau pour 4 mois. This is hard. Imagine 4 months in the bottom of a ship and you're chained down. There's disease, there's sickness, all these things all around you, and there's nothing you can do about it for 4 months. They call this horrible experience, they called it the Middle Passage. What would happen is the slaves would be in the ship. They would have the men tied in chains to each other because they didn't want the men to break away and start a revolt. The women and the children would be tied down individually. But the tough thing was, for 4 months, you had to use the bathroom down there. If you were sick down there, you could do nothing about it. It was a bastion for disease. People got sick, many people died, and they would sometimes just throw them over the ship. Now, as much as these French hated these Africans, they still had to treat them well just a little bit. Why? Because when they arrived to Haiti, which at the time was called Saint-Domingue, they needed the slaves to look good so they can sell them. If you don't look good, you're vagabundo. They had to give them a little bit of food each day. They would try to get them on the deck of the ship to exercise each day. Why? Because they know when the slaves arrive to Haiti or the Caribbean or wherever else, they want the slaves to look good so that people will buy the slaves. But imagine 4 months in the bottom of a ship, no light, it's dark, barely any food, you're sick, you're nauseous, and you're taken away from your home country. This is brutal, this is tough. It's hard for us to even imagine that our ancestors went through this perilous journey called the Middle Passage. So now the story gets a little more crazy. All these slaves coming from Western Central Africa arrive at Saint-Domingue, and they're sold at auctions and separated from their families. So they would separate the slaves so that they wouldn't be able to communicate with those who came from the same tribes as them. And so now, keep in mind, they're put on these plantations that were all over the island of Haiti. These were primarily sugar plantations. Why? Because sugar was a luxury item during that time in history. You see, Haiti produced almost 50% of the world's sugar during that time period. People would buy the sugar from them specifically all over parts of Europe. France became rich off of the sugar coming from Haiti. So the plantations were full of sugar and slaves worked brutally. They worked from sunrise to sundown, no breaks, every single day. In fact, slavery in Haiti, it was so brutal, after 2 or 3 years, slaves would die. The shortest time period out of any slave during the slave trade. 2 to 3 years they would die within arriving to the island. So now the French have a problem. They say, tout esclave yo a mouri, et puis yo pas fait petit, yo pas fait timoun. What happens when you need more slaves and they're not making children, they're not reproducing, you need more slaves to work on your plantations. So they said, you know what, it's ça nous pas le faire. Nous pas le retourner dans Afrique pour prendre l'autre esclave. But here's the problem. Because what happens is when you went back to Africa, you were bringing adults. See, if the slaves made babies right away, you would have a lot of young slaves born in slavery and having a slave mentality. But when you go back to Africa to get gramun, adult slaves, they weren't born in chains. And so they became a lot more resistant. At the time of the Haitian Revolution, 66%, 66%, 2 out of every 3 of the slaves were actually born in Africa. That's why Haitians have a very strong sense of African culture. A lot of adults that were constantly being brought over. And then one more thing influenced the slaves, the French Revolution. Remember, it was France who ruled Haiti. France ruled Haiti and they had their own revolution. And their motto was liberté, égalité, fraternité. Freedom, right? Equality and brotherhood. Now imagine the slaves in Haiti being ruled by the French and they hear the French talking about liberté, égalité, fraternité. So the Haitian slaves say, you guys are hypocrites. You can't talk about liberty and equality and brotherhood and treat us like this. That actually pushed the slaves to want to revolt and fight back and get their independence. And things were getting ready to start on fire for this first black successful revolution. So now the Haitians realize we deserve independence and we're gonna fight for independence, but you need a leader. Enter Toussaint Louverture. He pretty much was raised by a slave master who treated him really well. And Toussaint was fluent in 3 languages. He also had great leadership skills, and he was the one who would lead Haiti to this revolution. The year was 1791, and he organized a bunch of slaves together to fight against the French. They didn't have the weapons, but they had the numbers. At the time of the revolution, for every 1 Frenchman in Haiti, there were 50 Africans. 1 Frenchman, 50 Africans. They had them outnumbered. So now the Haitians outnumbered the French and they said, what are we gonna do? They started to do little things. They started to poison their water supply. They started to burn the plantations. That's smart. If I burn the place where I'm working, I don't have to go to work and buy business I buy on call. That's it. And then the Haitians even got ideas from the French. See, with the French Revolution, they had an instrument called the guillotine. The guillotine, qui ça le fait? They coupe tête. It cuts heads off. So the Haitians heard about that and they said, wait a minute, the French are cutting heads. It was a little gory, but they did the same thing. And so that's where the saying, coupe tête, brûler caille, comes from. They were cutting people's heads and burning houses and plantations. And they organized themselves and they were able to abolish slavery in the 1790s. However, Napoleon ends up becoming a leader of France, and Napoleon says, well, you know what? We need more money. Bring slavery back. We need that sugar money back. And he tries to enforce it, but the slaves fight back. Napoleon sends his general to Haiti to fight the slaves, and they still can't beat the Haitians. At one point in time, the Haitians beat 3 world powers. Haïtiens ont battu 3 gros nations. La France, Espagne, Angleterre. They beat France, Spain, and England at the same time. Why? Because Spain and England knew that, hey, if the Haitians see you bat qui sont in France, and they beat the French, and they end slavery, nous-mêmes n'a perdu l'argent, n'a perdu cob. We need slaves pour faire plus l'argent. So they try to help the French, but to no avail. They couldn't beat us. We beat 3 world powers at once. And so slavery was abolished. So Haiti, it had a domino effect. And pretty much with this, the Haitians beat the British, the French, and the Spanish at the same time. And in 1804, they became the first independent black republic. Now, Toussaint Louverture was captured, but there was another man who filled in for him to become the first president of Haiti. He goes by the name of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, first president of Haiti. And after him, Haiti was divided into two kingdoms, and our next two leaders were Henri Christophe, for those in the north, and Alexandre Pétion in the south. Pétionville was actually named after him. These are the forefathers of Haiti: Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Alexandre Pétion, Henri Christophe. These guys helped Haiti become the first and only country, black country, to have a revolution, to be a world power and start their own republic. Salute to Haiti.